Okay, so my name is Jacqueline Amongin, and I'm a member of parliament in Uganda. I also represent Uganda in the Pan African Parliament, and I chair the Committee of Agriculture, Rural Economy, Natural Resources, and Environment. And this very morning, we are very much delighted to have our guests from the different institutions coming to share and shape the future for food and nutrition in Africa. I would like, in a special way, before we commence our day's program, to introduce the special guests who are with us today. I would like to start by introducing a representative of our host, that's the President of the Pan African Parliament, who is not around with us, but with us in spirit, and has left a representative behind. I would like to introduce to you Honorable Mamadi Sidibe. Mamadi Sidibe, yes, maybe you clap a bit. Yes, thank you so much for being kind. Mamadi Sidibe is the chairperson of the Western Caucus at the Pan African Parliament, and he is also a member of parliament from Mali, and representing Mali in this particular parliament. Bienvenue, monsieur. And I would also like to introduce to you Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, the CEO of NEPAD. NEPAD is one of the agencies of the African Union, and I want to say before him that from the time I was young, I think I was 19, and I used to be in the African Youth Union, I used to admire Dr. Mayaki, because when he's addressing, he would always address the people briefly but precise, but whatever he says was always very useful to me. So I really appreciate you, and I know that you have taken NEPA to a different level. Merci, monsieur, and bienvenue, Parlement Pan-Africain. And I want to introduce to you Mr. Louis Hove, that is the FAO rep for South Africa. We've been working with him for some time now as the Committee of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Environment. And I want to really, in a special way, recognize the role of FAO, because from the engagement that we've had with FAO, we've been in position through the wise advice of Dr. Lewis to have a Food and Nutrition Alliance forum in this parliament, which brings all parliamentarians of the different member states. So we applaud you, sir. Thank you so much. And I want in a special way to introduce to you Mr. Martin Chungong. I hope I'm pronouncing the name very well. He's the IPU Secretary General. IPU is Interparliamentary Union. I used to be the member of IPU, one of the members of IPU, when I had just been elected to the Parliament of Uganda. And I know how vigilant you are and how committed you are to the cause of members ensuring that there is effective legislation in the different member countries of the IPU. You're most welcome, sir. And I would like to, in a special way, to introduce the Right Honorable Nahas Angula. He's the convener of the Namibia Alliance for Improved Nutrition and Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, lead Group 7. So he's also amidst us, and you're most welcome. Okay, having done those brief introductions, I'm sure that you're going to see these people when they are giving different engagements within our today's being here. And I would like to briefly let you know that our program is with you, and we will be following strictly this program. We may only be cheated by time, because once lost, you cannot gain it. That's the only thing you can ever gain. So I believe that we will be able to, by the end of the day, to have accomplished our program of being here and come up with smart action plans for the engagements with the different stakeholders, but particularly the parliamentarians and the niche that the parliamentarians have in regards to addressing food and nutrition in the continent of Africa. I'm sure that there are many other dignitaries who are not members of the Pan African Parliament seated there. I may not be able to recognize all of them, but probably waving would be good enough. Thank you. Yes, thank you, welcome. But I know you, Honorable Maria from Mauritius. So without wasting a lot of time, I'm going to take this opportunity to invite none other than Honorable Mamadi Sidibe, the chairperson of the Western Caucus here at the Pan African Parliament, to give welcome remarks as the host on behalf of the President of the Pan African Parliament. Bienvenue, monsieur. Can you use this? Thank you.
Excellence, Dr Ibrahim Hassan Mayaki, secrétaire exécutif du NEPAD. Excellence, Louis Owe, représentant Boka Tidjani, directeur général adjoint responsable régional de la FAO pour l'Afrique. Excellence, Martin Chungang, secrétaire général de l'UIP. Le très honorable Nahas Angoula, président de l'Alliance namibienne pour l'amélioration de la nutrition, NAFIN, honorable parlementaire panafricain, distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs. C'est pour moi un grand plaisir de vous souhaiter la bienvenue au nom du président du Parlement panafricain au présent événement de haut niveau sur le système alimentaire et de nutrition. Permettez-moi tout d'abord d'exprimer ma gratitude au NEPAD et à la FAO qui ont conjointement permis la tenue de cet événement. Nous vous remercions et avons bon espoir que ceci marquera le début d'un partenariat à long terme qui nous permettra de travailler ensemble pour le bien-être des populations africaines. Comme vous le savez, sans doute, l'un des grands domaines prioritaires de l'agenda 2063 de l'Union africaine, au titre de l'aspiration 1, une Afrique prospère fondée sur une croissance inclusive et le développement durable, consiste à atteindre l'objectif d'une Afrique dont les citoyens sont en bonne santé et bien nourris. En outre, la question du bien-être des populations africaines, notamment la question de la nutrition, est bien énoncée dans les mandats de plusieurs commissions permanentes du Parlement panafricain. Tout ceci témoigne du haut niveau de priorité que les organes exécutifs et les décideurs de l'Union africaine accordent à la nutrition. Distingués invités, honorables parlementaires, mesdames et messieurs, le Parlement panafricain est la voix des peuples africains. Une voix qui exprime toutes les préoccupations légitimes et les droits du peuple africain. En notre qualité d'honorables parlementaires, j'admets que nous excellons quand il s'agit de soulever et d'exprimer les préoccupations des populations africaines, mais aussi, il faut reconnaître que le pape aspire toujours à faire davantage et à assurer que tous les parlements nationaux prennent effectivement des dispositions en vue de rendre compte et de résoudre les problèmes soulevés. La création de l'Alliance parlementaire panafricaine pour la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle et l'Alliance du Parlement panafricain sur les objectifs de développement durable constituent deux étapes importantes de l'évolution du PAP. Le principal objectif de ces deux importants organes est non seulement d'assurer la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle pour tous nos enfants, mais également de veiller au respect des droits fondamentaux, à l'éducation et aux soins de santé. L'autre objectif important est d'assurer la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle pour toutes les composantes de la société, femmes et hommes. Toutefois, l'appel que je voudrais lancer à l'occasion de cet événement de haut niveau est qu'une priorité absolue soit accordée à certains groupes vulnérables, les enfants, les personnes âgées et les personnes handicapées, afin qu'ils soient des groupes spécifiques dans le cadre des programmes de développement en matière d'alimentation et de nutrition. Permettez-moi de saisir cette occasion pour exprimer ma gratitude personnelle à l'Organisation des Nations Unies pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture, la FAO, pour son précieux soutien technique et financier pour la création de l'Alliance parlementaire panafricaine pour la sécurité alimentaire nutritionnelle, PAPA-FNS. Nous avons à ce jour finalisé tous les cadres techniques et juridiques nécessaires à la création de l'Alliance en signant un accord de coopération technique entre la FAO et le Parlement panafricain. Nous avons également mis en place la structure organisationnelle appropriée pour l'Alliance. Par conséquent, il ne reste plus que quelques étapes à franchir pour le fonctionnement optimal de l'Alliance et je suis convaincu qu'elle peut être réalisée dans les mois à venir. Il ne fait aucun doute que l'Alliance contribuera positivement à relever tous les défis liés à la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle et à éliminer la faim en Afrique. Par ailleurs, l'Alliance panafricaine sur les objectifs de développement durable s'attelle à suivre et à évaluer les progrès réalisés par les pays africains dans la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable, notamment le deuxième objectif qui vise la faim et la pauvreté en Afrique. Il est prévu que l'Alliance du Parlement panafricain sur les objectifs de développement durable travaille en étroite collaboration avec les parlements nationaux pour suivre et évaluer les progrès réalisés et identifier les défis auxquels sont confrontés les pays africains et finalement faire des recommandations appropriées à l'Union africaine et aux communautés économiques régionales, CER, afin de relever les défis. Personnellement, je plaide toujours en faveur de l'élaboration de politiques et de lois nécessaires et appropriées au niveau national, régional et continental afin de réaliser la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle en Afrique pour que nos enfants en disposent d'une nourriture saine et suffisante pour leur corps et pour leurs esprits et par le biais de l'éducation. Distingués invités, honorables parlementaires, vous êtes tous conscients des effets négatifs des changements climatiques sur l'agriculture, qui est la pierre angulaire de la sécurité alimentaire et du développement durable. L'Afrique est dotée de ressources naturelles pour être le grenier du monde. Malheureusement, ces ressources sont affectées par les effets néfastes des changements climatiques en raison de la pollution et de la dégradation de l'environnement imputable en grande partie aux pays industrialisés. Par conséquent, et grâce à notre participation au COP 21, 22, 23, l'Afrique a réussi à enregistrer des gains notables dans les efforts visant à atténuer les effets négatifs des changements climatiques, quoique beaucoup reste encore à faire à cet égard. Ce qui est plus important et essentiel pour nous, en tant que Parlement continental, c'est de contribuer à l'élaboration de politiques et de lois idoines qui répondent aux différents défis auxquels notre continent est confronté. À cet égard, dans le cadre des efforts accomplis par le Parlement panafricain en vue d'élaborer des lois types destinées à guider les États africains dans l'élaboration de leur législation nationale, surtout sur des questions complexes et interdépendantes qui ne peuvent être réglées par un seul État au niveau national, le Parlement panafricain s'évertue à élaborer une loi type sur les changements climatiques qui, nous l'espérons, aidera à faire face à plusieurs questions climatiques et jettera une base solide pour le développement durable de notre continent. Du haut de cette tribune, j'en appelle à tout le monde, en particulier le NEPAD, l'Union africaine et la FAO, à nous fournir l'appui technique et financier nécessaire pour finaliser ce projet de loi type qui aura un grand impact positif. Distingués invités, honorables parlementaires, en conclusion, je tiens à réitérer notre gratitude et reconnaissance au NEPAD et à la FAO pour le soutien continu et inestimable accordé au Parlement panafricain. Nous nous réjouissons de la poursuite de notre collaboration et partenariat positif pour faire progresser l'agenda de l'alimentation et de la nutrition en Afrique. Je remercie ceux qui, d'une manière ou d'une autre, ont contribué à la réalisation de cet événement de haut niveau, en particulier le personnel du secrétariat du Parlement panafricain et du NEPAD, qui ont travaillé sans relâche ces dernières semaines à la préparation du présent événement. Merci pour la qualité du travail. Distingués invités, honorables parlementaires, je souhaite de bons échanges entre les participants et une fructueuse délibération. Et pour terminer, et joindre l'utile à l'agréable, comme le disait ma consoeur, ma collègue, à la veille de la journée de la femme, au nom du président du Parlement panafricain, je souhaite une bonne fête pour toutes les femmes de l'Afrique et du monde. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Maybe we need to give him another applause because in delivering the president's speech, he's able to raise and clearly stipulate how the Parliamentarians Forum on Food and Nutrition Security is working here at the PAP, what stages we have arrived at, and what we intend to do as the PAPA Food and Nutrition Alliance. And he also highlighted on the anticipated model on climate change that we are working on as the Committee of Agriculture, and how we want to engage with the different stakeholders to ensure that this comes to pass, and how we want to ensure that food and nutrition security, irrespective of the different leaders that have been put in place, as you may realize from the World Bank, the African Development Bank, leaders for food and security and nutrition. We want that the parliamentarians take this forward, and in so doing, we'll be addressing the issues related to food and nutrition in Africa, hence addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. Today we're in 2017. Our target is 2025, and we are all to ponder whether we shall be there by 2025, so that no one goes to bed hungry. So I want you to not look at the food that you eat every day, but look back to your village and understand whether those people have 3 meals a day or not at all, or some have a meal after 2 days. So those are the things that we are discussing about here. So with this very good presentation, I would like to present Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, the CEO of NEPAD Agency. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mamadi Sidibé, personal representative of the President of the Pan African Parliament, Honorable Jacqueline Amongine, Chair of the Committee on Agriculture, Honorable Martin Chungong, Secretary General of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, Right Honorable Na Sangula, Convener of the Namibia Alliance for Improved Nutrition, Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, Mr. Lewis Hove, FAO representative in South Africa, honorable members of the AU organs, esteemed partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Let me add my voice in welcoming you warmly to Midrand, which is the seat of many AU organs and entities, like the Pan African Parliament, the African Peer Review Mechanism, and the NEPAD agency. 2018 is a watershed moment on the continent for recognizing the challenge yet centrality of nutrition in development. On a beaucoup parlé de l'importance de la nutrition dans le développement au cours des dernières années, mais cette importance n'est pas suffisamment structurée pour être utile. Et ce que nous faisons ici ce matin, c'est essayer de structurer cet appui pour rendre nos objectifs atteignables. At the last African Union Heads of States and Government Summit in January, the unsatisfactory status in food security and malnutrition on the continent was echoed. It was a wake-up call, recognizing that we can no longer continue to bury our heads in the sand regarding the unacceptable levels of malnutrition and the resultant consequences and impact at individual, community, and national levels. Malnutrition is a considerable obstacle to development. Nevertheless, we need not despair because we have opportunities and solutions well within our grasp and a chance for doing business as usual to achieve desired results. I think it is not far from the truth to state that never before in the history of nutrition in Africa and the world as a whole has there been so much interest and attention to food and nutrition security. To food and nutrition security. In the last few years, dialogue and discourses in nutrition have been elevated to the highest levels of the policy-making bodies, programmatic and technical engagements, and a renewed attitude towards investments and resourcing for achieving a world free of hunger and malnutrition in all its forms. That said, what remains, in my view, as one of the most important game changers for Africa in the context of food and nutrition security has been the setting up of a Pan African Parliamentary Alliance for Food and Nutrition Security, PAPA-FNS, in 2016. In this regard, I would like to commend the Pan African Parliament for the bold move and commitment to this noble course, and to acknowledge and thank warmly the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, for the support in providing the necessary technical and political guidance, as well as the tools for setting up such mechanism. Ce n'est qu'à travers des alliances de ce genre que nous pourrons faire avancer les buts que nous poursuivons. Plus nous serons nombreux à mettre nos mains sur cette question, plus il sera possible d'atteindre ces objectifs. Why is it necessary to have such an alliance at this particular juncture, and coincidentally during a period of transformation on many aspects of Africa's development. The reasons are numerous, but let me highlight just a few. One, Africa remains in a continual crisis and silent emergency of hunger and multiple forms of malnutrition. We are the continent where food insecurity has risen over the years compared to other regions of the world. The 2016 Global Hunger Index Africa Edition report provides more evidence about the staggering levels of hunger on the continent. The report reveals that 1/3 of the 42 African countries that were covered in the study were categorized as having serious hunger levels. Il est important néanmoins sur ce point particulier de faire remarquer que le fait que l'Afrique n'ait pas finalisé sa transition démographique et soit toujours à des niveaux de croissance démographique entre 3,8 et 4,2 constitue un élément très important dans le fait que nous ayons ces indicateurs négatifs sur le plan de la nutrition. Two, this malnutrition crisis is crippling our very intentions and aspirations towards human, social, and economic development. While on the surface, many countries are evidently some of the fastest growing economically and infrastructure-wise, this growth does not match the low human capital development. Et nous savons maintenant que le développement, ce n'est pas simplement l'accumulation du capital financier, mais que c'est fondamentalement l'accumulation du capital humain. Three, while we have always had a focus on improving agricultural production and productivity, we now need to look closely at the fact that our food systems are not able to provide the best nutrition for citizens. L'honorable Mamadi Sidibé faisait référence à l'impact du changement climatique et aux efforts que le Parlement panafricain déploie dans ce domaine. Et ces efforts sont extrêmement louables. Et il faut reconnaître que l'urbanisation, la croissance démographique et le changement climatique ont un impact direct sur nos systèmes d'alimentation. Four, in terms of statistics, the numbers speak for themselves. 58 million children under age 5 are too short for their age, which means stunted. 220 million people are estimated to be calorie deficient, and both adult and child obesity is on the rise in all African countries. And lastly, we lose annual GDP to a tune of 15% on average due to child undernutrition in the 12 countries that have already been analyzed by the Cost of Hunger in Africa study. So with the picture as painted above, we need this alliance and the rest of parliamentarians on the continent to fervently work and assist with, for example, the following, in a nutshell: strengthen monitoring of regulations, standards, and laws in support of producing, processing, marketing, and delivering nutritious foods to the populations. Two, promote the implementation of measures to create an enabling environment for availing and accessing nutritious foods, such as through tax breaks, smart incentives, and levies and taxation of unhealthy foods. Three, through evidence-based, create policies that accelerate the production and consumption of healthy, nutritious foods beyond just staples, through diversified diets, including livestock, fisheries, forestry, and horticulture products, fruits, vegetables, pulses, nuts, to address the relevant nutrition conditions and challenges. Four, advocate for proven and sustainable win-win interventions, approaches and programs, such as the national homegrown school feeding programs, food fortification, biofortification and diversification of production and consumption. Support the development and implementation of national food-based dietary guidelines as a policy, advocacy, and nutrition education tool for influencing behavior change among producers, processors, and consumers alike, while acting as a means to curb unfair advertising and marketing of unhealthy food products by the food industry. And lastly, advocate for increased investments for nutrition programming, intersectoral contributions, and collaboration for coordinated planning and implementation that brings coherence and improved levels of accountability. Et dans ce contexte, et sur ce point particulier, les parlementaires ont un rôle extrêmement important à jouer dans la mesure où ce sont eux qui fixent les cadres budgétaires au niveau national. La difficulté avec la nutrition, c'est que, étant une dimension intersectorielle, l'allocation des ressources peut parfois paraître difficile. Elle doit cependant être une nécessité. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, today is a very happy day for us as we witness this high-level event, the first of its kind, that seeks not only to sensitize parliamentarians and the rest of us, but to mobilize stronger commitment and action for zero hunger in Africa. In the same vein, I am extremely confident that our parliaments will set us on a path towards delivering on the Malabo CADEP 10-year results framework, Agenda 2025 on ending hunger, and Agenda 2063. Admittedly, the NEPAD agency, as the implementing agency of the African Union, together with its partners, is ready to take on this agenda's challenge and work with the Alliance to achieve Africa's development, which strongly hinges on food and nutrition security. Moreover, we are determined to look at the Sustainable Development Goals through a nutrition lens, which therefore helps us align ourselves with global development and initiatives positions for taking forward the decade of action on nutrition, implementing the Rome Declaration and the framework of action of the Second International Conference on Nutrition. In this context, going to scale is not an option. We must ensure scale up in investments, in skills and capacities, in program implementation, and in overall advocacy for nutrition. Excellencies, in closing, allow me one more time to reiterate that parliamentarians have a very critical role to play in championing the cause of nutrition. However, individually and collectively, we have equally binding responsibilities to do our part in making hunger and malnutrition a phenomenon of the past within this decade. En abordant les solutions relatives à la question de la nutrition, nous sommes en même temps en train de lutter contre l'inégalité. L'honorable Mamadi Sidibé parlait de vulnérabilité. La vulnérabilité est intrinsèquement liée à l'inégalité, et ce que nous cherchons tous, c'est bien évidemment l'inclusion. Et sur cette question de l'inclusion, il est fondamental de faire ressortir le rôle que jouent et que joueront les femmes. L'Afrique ne se développera pas tant que ces femmes ne seront pas à un niveau de développement adéquat. We owe it to ourselves, and more importantly, to the youth and future generations, to write our own nutrition and food system script to change the narrative, which I know will be a positive one, painting a brighter picture. I thank you.
I told you at the introduction, right? So I hope you remember everything that he has said. So can we applaud Dr. Mayaki for the commitments that he has made and NEPAD to work with the different legislators, but more specifically with the Food and Security Nutrition Alliance at the Pan African Parliament, to make sure that there is zero hunger achieved, and addressing the Malabo Declaration, and especially particular agendas that are related to Food and Nutrition Alliance. In a special way, he also thanked the FAO for having come on board to work with the legislators in the continent in championing this alliance and addressing the issues of food and nutrition security in the continent. I know that all of us were very attentive, and it has been a very moving speech. We thank you, Dr. Mayaki, and I know we are progressing very well via time. I would like to introduce to you the FAO representative for South Africa. That is none other than Mr. Lewis Hove. Lewis Hove, over to you, sir.
Honorable Mohamed Sidibe, Chairperson of the West African Caucus, representing His Excellency, the President of the Pan African Parliament, Honorable Roger Dang. Your Excellency, the Chief Executive Officer of NEPAD NPCA, Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki. Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the Interparliamentary Union, Mr. Martin Chungong, the Right Honorable Nahas Angula, convener of the Namibia Alliance for Improved Nutrition and member of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, Lead Group 7. Honorable members of the Pan African Parliament here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from the Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Africa of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, His Excellency Bukar Tijan, who, due to other equally important commitments, could not be present personally, and has assigned me to deliver these short remarks on his behalf. Mr. Tijan would like to express FAO's profound appreciation to the Pan African Parliament and NEPAD in particular, and all stakeholders at this special event on nutrition and food systems for the continued fruitful cooperation to ending hunger and all forms of malnutrition in Africa. Over the past 3 years, FAO has forged very strong collaboration with the Pan-African Parliament to engage parliamentarians across the African region to contribute to advancing food security and nutrition. At the second ordinary session of the 4th Parliament in May 2016, over 100 parliamentarians from Africa re-echoed their commitment to food security and nutrition, and pledged their commitment to the creation of the Pan-African Parliamentary Alliance for Food Security and Nutrition, commonly called PAPA-FNS. In August 2016, FAO supported a one-day workshop on food security and nutrition for parliamentarians from various committees of the PAP, during which the structure of the PAPA-FNS was agreed upon. On 13 October 2016, at the third ordinary session of the fourth parliament in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, we established and formally launched the PAPA-FNS, and its structure was approved by the PAP. Immediately following the launch of the PAPA-FNS, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the PAP and the FAO, formalizing the strategic partnership between our two entities with the following objectives. One, positioning the issue of food security and nutrition at the highest level of the political and legislative agendas in order to achieve the developmental objectives of Africa. And two, to contribute to the PAPA-FNS as a regional platform for African members of parliament to deliberate and agree on critical issues related to food security and nutrition. In October last year, 2017, we successfully signed our first technical cooperation program, offering us greater opportunity to jointly advance legislative and budgetary frameworks for creating an enabling environment for sustainable food security and nutrition in Africa. The technical cooperation program also provides an umbrella for mutual accountability on the commitments outlined in the 2014 Africa Union Malabo Declaration, which is fully aligned with the SDGs and the commitments by parliamentarians in the Rome Declaration of the Second International Conference on Nutrition, with its framework for action being implemented under the UN Decade of Action on Nutrition. Your Excellencies, it was in this slide that the President of the PAPA-FNS and the fourth Vice President of the Pan African Parliament became the overall chair of the Africa Regional Symposium on Sustainable Food Systems for Healthy Diets and Improved Nutrition that was held last year in November in Abidjan for over 200 technical experts. The key actions and recommendations of the symposium were presented at the 8th Africa Day for Food and Nutrition Security at our most recent and very successful Africa Regional Conference held in Khartoum last month. This high-level event on nutrition and food systems by NEPAD and the PAP is therefore timely in broadening our partnership and will, with the recent launch of the Africa Leaders for Nutrition by the Africa Development Bank and the last summit of heads of state of Africa in Addis Ababa, further mobilize high-level political commitment and strategies for optimizing nutrition impact on populations in Africa. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, malnutrition, including undernutrition, overnutrition, and micronutrient deficiencies, remains one of the greatest and most urgent health and developmental challenge in Africa. According to estimates from the 2017 Global Nutrition Report, 31% of Africa's children under the age of 5 are still stunted, 7% wasted, 14% of all infants born with low birth weights in Africa. An estimated 38% of women of reproductive age in Africa are anemic, and 42% of preschool children suffer from vitamin A deficiency. These indeed are statistics that should all jolt us into action. Coupled with this, 40% of women are overweight, with 16% being obese in Africa. Only an estimated 11% of children of 6 to 23 months receive acceptable diet, and only 23% receive minimum diversification of diets. While undernutrition is only slowly reducing, overnutrition is on the increase and threatens progress made. No country on the continent is on course to meeting the global targets for adult obesity and anemia in women of reproductive age. The Malabo Declaration of June 2014, the African Union Agenda of 2063, commonly called the Africa We Want, the Africa Regional Nutrition Strategy, and the Africa Renewed Initiative on Stunting Elimination all offers a greater impetus to address nutrition challenges of the region and are aligned to global nutrition commitments as stipulated in the ICN2, the SDGs, and the Nutrition for Growth, and the World Health Assembly nutrition targets. We all must collectively continue to review the evidence, examine the policy and programmatic implications, and provide recommendations on how to sustainably improve on our food systems and optimize improvement in nutrition outcomes in Africa, while exploring best practices and lessons that could be learned to meet our commitment and targets by 2025 and beyond 2030. Indeed, anchoring food security and nutrition policies and frameworks in legislation with sufficient resource allocation to achieve the right to adequate food and improved nutrition outcomes would very significant socio-economic impact returns. Adequate nutrition for optimal health and well-being is a fundamental human right of all our citizens. In conclusion, Your Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, let us call on ourselves to continue to promote, 1, evidence-based policies, regulations, and instruments to address the food and nutrition challenges of Africa. 2, to strengthen national and regional food trade integration to ensure availability and accessibility to healthy diets. 3, facilitate the enactment of laws and legislations to support food systems reform to deliver on healthy diets. And finally, 4, ensure the provision of adequate resources from countries for actions towards the improvement of food systems for nutrition. FAO will continue to work closely with you to adopt national nutrition policies and plans to attain national nutrition targets, to develop legislation and oversee regulations to improve access to healthy diets through poverty reduction, employment creation, and social protection, including sustainable food and nutrition programs. I wish you very fruitful deliberations and look forward to the outcomes of this special event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Louis Hove, and we need to give him an applause again, because he took us through the background still of the Food and Nutrition Security Alliance of the Pan African Parliament, and how we started, where we are. So you realize that all these speeches are almost relevant and related to why we are here today, and raises the different global commitments that justify our action towards global and local. That should justify our actions as legislators towards food and nutrition security in the continent, including the Malabo and the different AU summits reckoning on nutrition security in Africa. And obviously, he could not downplay the role of parliaments, because the parliaments have the niche in doing oversight, legislation, representation, and appropriation of resources, calling upon parliaments to enact laws that are very strategic in addressing food nutrition security in the continents and their member states, and calling upon parliaments in their appropriative role to make sure that there's provision for nutrition in their legislation and budget allocations. And of course, he concluded by committing to work closely with the Alliance as the Vice President, the first Vice President of the Alliance. I'm very delighted of that commitment. And I commit that as the Pan African Parliament and as representative of the people, having the vigor to ensure that these agendas are addressed at our member states, We are very excited of the alliances that we are forming, and we look forward to a joint working relationship to ensure that we achieve one goal of zero hunger and nutrition in Africa. Thank you so much once more. And I would therefore like to invite none other than Mr. Martin Chungong and the IPU Secretary General to address this August House. Most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. It gives me great pleasure to be here today. Your Excellency, Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, Chief Executive Officer of NEPAD, and of course, the Right Honorable Mamadi Sidibe, representing His Excellency, the President of the Pan African Parliament, Mr. Lewis Hove, FAO representative in South Africa, the Right Honorable Angola, member of the Sun Movement, honorable members of the Pan African Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It gives me great pleasure to address this distinguished gathering on behalf of the Interparliamentary Union. I must say that I am proud to do so as a member of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, a distinction that I share with His Excellency Dr. Mayaki, and as I've just mentioned, Mr. Angola. In this capacity, we are committed to strengthening action worldwide in order to resolve the issues of nutrition around the world. Let me also thank NEPAD and the Pan African Parliament for inviting me to this auspicious occasion. And as Secretary General of the Global Organization of Parliaments, I truly appreciate the opportunity to address you today at the seat of the Pan African Parliament, the summit of parliaments on the African continent. I would like to congratulate the organizers of this meeting on a well-designed program. I have seen that it is full of promising discussion on policies, frameworks, and recommendations to improve nutrition and food systems for all people in Africa. Let me put it to you that nutrition and food security are eminently political issues, and that is why we are gathered here today, parliamentarians being prominent political figures in their own right. And I want to argue that no change for the better can have any impact if we do not prioritize the issues of nutrition and food security, if we do not ensure that these areas are adequately funded and policies implemented effectively. I put it to you, parliamentarians, that you hold the key to these solutions. By virtue of your constitutional powers, parliaments and parliamentarians can influence policies and laws to improve the lives of their citizens. This includes addressing the major nutrition challenges that our societies currently face. Parliaments hold national governments accountable through their oversight function. As representatives of the people, parliamentarians have an important advocacy mission in their communities. They are the bridge between the people and government. Last but not the least, parliaments hold the power of the purse. If fully discharged, these critical functions can ensure that parliaments and parliamentarians use their powers in the most effective way and where there is greatest need. It is in this spirit that in early February 2017, I sent a letter to all the speakers of parliaments from the member countries of the Sun Movement, calling on national parliaments to do what they have been elected to do, to fully discharge their constitutional powers and take action for improved nutritional outcomes in their countries. I invited the speakers to convene multi-stakeholder consultations in order to identify ways in which they can take action to support efforts to fight malnutrition and its consequences. This action has enabled the Sun Movement and its partners to access parliaments and start working with MPs on important issues of legislation and financing of nutrition initiatives. I have learned from our partners at the Sun Movement that this work is currently going on in 36 parliaments, out of which at least 10 are on the African continent, which is a very good score indeed. At the global level, IPU assemblies have served as an avenue for discussion and peer learning on different issues concerning nutrition and food security. For instance, during the IPU assembly in Dhaka in April 2017, parliamentarians from all over the world approved an emergency item on urgent international action to save millions of people from famine and drought in parts of Africa and Yemen, that reaffirmed, among other things, access to food as a basic human right. I am pleased to point out that several days ago, I welcomed the coordinator of the Sun Movement and the FAO Director representative to the UN in Geneva, and we discussed how we could come together to identify policies and measures that we could promote in order to improve upon nutritional outcomes. And I'm pleased to say that one of the resolutions that we took was to design a handbook for parliamentarians on nutrition, a handbook that would identify the issues and solutions, a handbook that would seek to build capacity in parliaments, including at the continental level, for instance, at the Pan African Parliament. I hope that this handbook will be ready in the very immediate future. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sustainable Development Goals offer the opportunity for parliaments and parliamentarians to confirm their ongoing relevance by delivering on the well-being of the people. The transformational vision of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development calls on all countries and stakeholders to work together to end nutrition and prevent all forms of malnutrition by 2030. This ambition can only be fulfilled if food systems become sustainable so that food supplies are stable and all people have access to adequate nutrition and health. However, many governments, especially in low and middle income countries, lack the resources or the political will to guarantee adequate nutrition and food systems. It is in this intersection between nutrition, food security, and governance that the role of Parliament comes into play, bringing enormous value. First, parliaments and parliamentarians can advocate at various levels to elevate nutrition and food security to the top of national agendas with a view to tackling inequalities, strengthening national food systems, and making sure that special attention is paid to the populations most in need. Secondly, parliaments can and should make sure through their oversight powers that national and international commitments are turned into action through coherent, comprehensive, and coordinated policies, programs, and plans. Thirdly, nutrition is dependent on many factors that fall outside of the nutrition sector. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development provides a strong platform for parliaments to promote multi-sectoral coordination so that nutritional outcomes can be improved by tackling underlying determinants of malnutrition, such as poverty, food security, care for mothers and children, and primary healthcare services and sanitation. The outcome of your discussions today will therefore be very important to us. And on behalf of the Interparliamentary Union, I wish to state our commitment, the commitment of the global parliamentary community to help address the identified challenges and opportunities. We look forward to pursuing our cooperation with NEPAD, the Sun Movement, FAO, the Pan African Parliament, and other stakeholders with a view to better nutritional outcomes for our people. I wish you all successful deliberations and look forward to the outcome of your discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable, for those wonderful remarks. And being the Secretary General of the IPU, we definitely feed into the IPU at the African level. Although IPU is global, it means that we will be giving, by the commitment that you have given and the presentation that you've made, it means will be giving food and nutrition an outlook which will be global by IPU committing all its members to take action. And thank you so much for those wonderful remarks, and I'd like to ask the audience to give you an applause. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Right Honorable Nahas Angula, convener of the Namibia Alliance for Improved Nutrition and Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, to address the gathering. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Honorable Jacqueline Amagin, moderator of this high-level event on nutrition and food systems, Son Excellence Mr. Mamadi Sindibe, Dr. Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, Mr. Lewis Hove, Mr. Martin Chungong, and other resource persons here present, honorable members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to be here today among legislators from across the African continent who are committed to improving food security and nutrition in their countries. A sustainable, healthy food system and good nutrition are both the starting point and the foundation of sustainable development. The Pan African Parliament and NEPAD deserve our commendation for organizing this high-level event on nutrition and food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last decades, hunger and nutrition rates have slowly but steadily decreased across African countries. However, we are now seeing an increase in hunger on our continent, especially in countries affected by conflicts, droughts, and floods. It is estimated that 59 million African children still suffer from chronic malnutrition. And the number of children with stunted growth is increasing because of population growth. At the same time, we see an increase in overweight, obesity, and diet-related chronic diseases in Africa, creating a double burden of malnutrition. Nutrition, ladies and gentlemen, is a developmental issue. Malnutrition has a high cost in terms of health, educational achievement, economic productivity, and the well-being of our people. These are the people you represent in your parliaments. The importance of good nutrition is not always well appreciated in our societies. However, malnutrition is a silent famine. Malnutrition is the underlying cause of almost half of all children deaths. Lack of key micronutrients in our bodies weaken our immune systems. It is for this reason that we are experiencing outbreaks of communicable diseases, especially in our overcrowded urban informal settlements. We have witnessed outbreaks of cholera, hepatitis, and other communicable diseases in many of our countries in present times. Malnutrition during the first 1,000 days of child's life, that is from conception to 2 years, can cause irreversible damage to children's brains and bodies. Good nutrition is not simply a matter of eating enough food, but children need nutritious food suitable for their age, as well as proper care to grow and develop to their full potential. For this reason, Improving nutrition requires collaborative action across sectors such as agricultural production, health, education, economic development, women's empowerment, social protection, etc. One sector or one stakeholder alone cannot solve these issues. This is why I am proud to represent the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement as a member of that movement's lead group. Out of 60 countries which constitute the Sun Movement, 40 are African nations, committed to scale up efforts and investment to address nutrition through a unique multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach. The Scaling Up Nutrition Movement focuses on improving nutrition during this unique 1,000 days window of opportunity during early childhood, when children's future development is determined and when efforts to improve nutrition achieve the greatest results. The Scaling Up Nutrition Movement brings together different groups of people from governments, civil society, the United Nations, development partners, businesses, and scientists in a common multi-stakeholder platform that work towards the common goal of eliminating malnutrition. It brings a new way of working together, establishing an effective system for collective action and for increasing investments in nutrition. African leaders have made ambitious global and regional commitments to improve food security and nutrition. But we are not fulfilling our commitments to food and nutrition security. There are compelling reasons why we are not able to bring about accelerated agricultural growth or shared prosperity for improved livelihoods. In Southern Africa, we are faced with recurrent climate-associated shocks. For a number of years, we experienced droughts. Food production was seriously diminished. Such a dire situation pushed many rural producers to urban areas, leading to growing urbanization. Growing urbanization coupled with unemployment, poverty, and inequality has resulted in high level of malnutrition in urban areas. Coupled with climate change is the collapse of the commodity prices. Commodities are the backbones of many African economies. Many African countries had to cut budgets and investment in agriculture, and investment in agriculture became the casualty in this process. To build sustainable food systems and improve nutrition across the continent, we need political leadership from the highest level. Putting food security and good nutrition at the center of efforts to achieve sustainable development. During my time as a Prime Minister of Namibia, I made nutrition a key priority for our nation. Under my leadership, Namibia joined the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, and I personally led Namibia's multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder nutrition coordination mechanism called the Namibian Alliance for Improved Nutrition, in short, NAFIN, which I am still convening to ensure all actors across the relevant sectors contributed to improved nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, I know of transformative power that you parliamentarians can have for the development of our nations. Parliamentarians can play a critical role in improving food security and nutrition in their countries through their sectoral responsibilities and by acting in their lawmaking and budget oversight capacities to ensure nutrition is prioritized and effectively addressed. Parliamentarians can also contribute by mobilizing their constituencies in support of nutrition and by holding government to account regarding progress on its nutrition commitments. Increasingly, ladies and gentlemen, the scaling up nutrition movement is engaging parliamentarians in joint endeavor to end malnutrition. I'm informed that 10 African countries now have dedicated scaling up nutrition networks for parliamentarians. The scaling up nutrition movement is currently facilitating the setup of a global community of parliamentarians active in the fight to end malnutrition for mutual exchange, capacity building, and support to enable further progress. This community is not a new initiative, but a learning network which will connect existing initiatives like the Pan African Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the way forward. In my view, better data will help us understand what we need to do and who to target with nutrition interventions. Better data will enable policymakers to prioritize nutrition and food security in their budgets. The work being done by organizations such as the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program and the Cost of Hunger Studies in Africa should be scaled up in order to build local capacities. The Namibia Alliance for Improving Nutrition, NAFIN, of which, as I said earlier, a convener, would like to conduct studies in some of these issues in order to generate evidence-based information for policymakers. We, however, lack the required resources and capacity to conduct such studies. Since nutrition is a cross-cutting issue, government institutions are not sufficiently motivated to invest in nutrition under the current economic environment of budget cuts. I urge everyone present here today to help change this mindset. As an investment in nutrition is an investment in our nation's future. Another way for parliamentarians to promote the welfare of their communities is to form communities for food and nutrition security, to work collectively with other members of parliament with common goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust our lawmakers gathered here today shall return from these events to their parliaments with new vigor and determination in scaling up food and nutrition security in our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, together we can make a difference. And I thank you sincerely for your attention. Have a nice day.
Okay, an applause to Honorable Nahas. Because he raised the concerns that irrespective of some of the countries making progress, there's still much that is not being addressed to achieve food and security nutrition in our member states, including the commitment by the heads of states at the summit to every member state to address per 10% of the budget to address food and agriculture. And in the whole of Africa, I think only 2 countries are realizing this. So it remains a challenge. So it calls upon all of us and the parliaments to reckon to our commitments and play our roles to ensure that food is a cross-cutting issue and nutrition is these are cross-cutting issues that we can't do without. Having listened to all the great presenters that we've had this morning, I think that we need to clap for all of them for having taken us through a wonderful morning. And I guess that they have set a stage for our continuous engagement in the afternoon. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to inform you that after we break, actually just now, I will request all of you to come in front. We do a group photo here, and then we will have a 15 minutes break outside at the lobby area, and then we will get back to this room. But I know you're not yet tired of my face, but I would like to hand over after break to none other than Professor Tandeka Sinkwinwane. Yes, he will be moderating our session after break. So be there, don't miss it, and I'll come back again. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed this session. See you at the break, but let's first come to do a photo, group photo. Thank you, and let's clap for ourselves. Please, all of us are encouraged to join the photo. All of us, I see honorable members seated. Please come.